The morning was quiet and cool, with a light fog sitting low over the trees. Birds called from the tall pines, and the creek sounded like a soft whisper behind the brush. Darius Cole stood on his back porch and watched the mist lift from his land. He liked these early hours. He liked how the light came gently and showed the shape of the place he cared for. He checked the time, looked at the sky, and smiled. He always followed a routine. He made a cup of tea, opened his notebook, and reviewed his plan for the day. He had written down the sunrise time, the safe zones on his map, and a short checklist he kept every season. He believed in doing things the right way. It was his way of showing respect for nature, for his neighbors, and for himself. His land was not large, but it was enough. A few acres of mixed woods, a small field, and that winding creek that drew dragonflies in summer. He had spent many weekends walking the property line with a GPS app, marking boundaries and placing small, clear posts where the trees were thick. He had read the county rules, the state rules, and the basics of outdoor safety. He wore bright, safety gear even when he walked alone. He kept a first aid kit in his day pack. He took an extra phone battery. He told a friend which area he planned to enter and for how long. Some people called this overdoing it. Darius just called it care. On the kitchen table sat a folder he had prepared over several months. Inside were printed pages on local laws, about private land use, a copy of his safety course certificate, and a county map with his property highlighted in yellow. He could point to every line and explain it in simple words. To him, this was not just about following rules. It was about living well with others and with the land. He liked the peace of it. He liked doing things with a clean heart. That calm changed the day the letter arrived. He had come home from the grocery store and saw the envelope in his mailbox with the HOA's logo in shiny navy ink. He walked inside, set down the milk and vegetables, and opened it at the counter. The letter said there had been a complaint about unsafe activity on or near common areas. It said he was being fined and warned. His name was printed in bold, on the top line. The words felt heavy, like a mistake that had somehow become official. He read the letter again and again. It did not list a date. It did not name a witness. It did not mention that he had been on his own land. It simply said there had been a disturbance and that he owed a fine. Darius took a slow breath. He did not let anger in. He took the letter and placed it next to his folder. Then he sat down and wrote a short note to himself. Stay calm, gather facts. After tea, he called the number listed on the letter and asked for a copy of the complaint and any evidence the board used. The person on the phone said the complaint was general and tied to a community concern. When he asked for details, he heard, "The board will review at the next meeting. You may attend." The call ended politely, but without answers. He decided to start with what he could control. He took a picture of the letter. He took a picture of his property map. He wrote the date and time in his notebook. Then he called the county conservation office and asked if someone could confirm that his plans and past actions were within the law. A day later, Ranger Kim called back. Her voice was clear and steady. She asked questions, took notes, and said she would pull up the county map while they spoke. "You are on your land," she said. "You're following the rules and the season. Your safety measures are great. If the HOA needs a briefing, I'm happy to explain to them." Darius thanked her. He felt seen. It was a small relief, but a real one. On the day of the HOA meeting, the community room smelled like coffee and new carpet. Folding chairs stood in neat rows. A screen at the front showed the agenda. People chatted in small groups. Some were friendly. Some looked down at their phones. Darius wore a clean, button-down shirt and brought his folder. He had practiced what to say out loud, short, clear, respectful. He reminded himself to stay on the facts. When his name was called, he stood, greeted the board, and used the 2 minutes they gave him with care. "My name is Darius Cole," he began. I live on Willow Creek Lane. I want to explain that I only use my own property. I follow the state rules, the county map, and the safety guidelines. I wear bright gear. I stay far from the common areas. Here are printed copies of my certificate and a map. I've also spoken with the county ranger who says I am within the law. He handed his pages to the board members. Some glanced at them, others placed the papers on a stack without looking. A few neighbors in the back nodded. A young couple whispered that they had seen him in safety colors and appreciated the care he took. But across the aisle, a small group leaned together and whispered in a way that felt hard to read. He heard a few words: image, kids, we should not have this, but not full sentences. The board president, Mrs. Ellison, thanked him for speaking and said they would take it under advisement. The tone felt gentle on the surface, but it also felt like a door staying closed. After the meeting, a neighbor named Omar caught up to him at the door. "I saw your map," Omar said. "It was clear. People might just be nervous. Let's keep talking." Darius appreciated the kindness. He also noticed a few people snapping photos and typing quickly on their phones. Later that night, he saw a vague post on the neighborhood group. "Some activities are dangerous near our trails. Board will act." The post did not name him or say it was his land. It did, however, set a mood. Comments appeared below it, some careful, some worried, and a few that made the situation sound worse than it was. The next morning, Darius called the number on the bottom of the letter again and asked to add one more fact to the record: an email from Ranger Kim confirming his compliance with the law. He kept it short and polite. Within an hour, he received a reply from the board's general address saying they had noted his perspective and would review all items in due course. It was a formal sentence that seemed to say both yes and no at the same time. He felt the weight of it, but he did not let it press him down. He kept going with his plan. Stay calm, gather facts, share clearly. Ranger Kim called with an update. "If the board wants, I can come to the next meeting," she said. "I can explain the county's position, the safety guidelines, and why your actions are allowed." Darius thanked her. "That would help," he said. "It would be good for everyone to hear the rules from someone who enforces them." She sent an email to the board offering a simple briefing. The message was short and easy to read. It said she would explain the law and answer questions. The reply that came back surprised them both. The board said they appreciated the offer but did not need a briefing at this time. The email said the issue was less about rules and more about neighborhood image. Darius read that line twice. He thought about what image meant. He thought about what it meant when people did not want to talk about rules, even when rules could bring peace. He felt a quiet sadness, but he also felt steady. He had his facts. He had his folder. He had his careful steps. He made a second folder, called HOA, and placed the email inside. Over the next week, he noticed small changes. A notice went up on the community board by the mail kiosk. It used careful words about safety and concern. It did not list evidence. It did not mention that county rules had been checked. It did not say that he had offered to share his map and plans. A few neighbors stopped by his fence and asked gentle questions. "We saw a post," one said, looking worried. "Are you doing anything near the trail?" Darius showed them the map on his phone. He pointed to the bright yellow shape of his land, which sat apart from the HOA's common areas. He traced the path he took, which kept him far from where people walked. He showed his bright gear hanging by the door. The neighbors relaxed. "Thank you for explaining," they said. "We did not know." Still, more letters came from the HOA, one fine, then another. Each used general language. Each said the board had received reports. He did the same thing each time. He replied with a short, respectful note. He attached the county map. He attached the email from Ranger Kim. He asked again for specific dates and details. He asked for a clear list of rules he had broken. He did not receive those details. Instead, he received a notice that the board would discuss stricter community standards at the next meeting. He circled the date in his calendar and made a plan to go. On the day of that meeting, he arrived early and stood near the back. He listened to people talk about landscaping, pool hours, and parking. When the topic of standards came up, the room grew louder. Some people spoke about peace and quiet. Some asked for clearer signs. A few wanted to ban anything they did, not like the sound of. Darius raised his hand and waited to be recognized. When his turn came, he said the same simple things he had said before. He kept his voice soft. He did not accuse anyone. He simply asked the board to consider facts and fairness. He asked them to accept the county's offer to give a briefing. He asked them to write clear rules that matched the law. He also said he was ready to work on a shared schedule or post a small sign on his own fence when he planned to be on his land, just so neighbors would know. He wanted everyone to feel safe and informed. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then people began to talk again, some in support, some unsure. Mrs. Ellison thanked him and moved to the next item without that as a Essie. The days after the meeting felt longer than usual. The air was cool, but the mood in the neighborhood felt tight, like a shirt that did not fit. Darius kept his routine. He woke early, made tea, and wrote short notes to himself, facts, dates, and calm sentences that helped him think. He told himself to look for light, not noise. He took quiet walks on his own land and listened to the creek. He cleaned up fallen branches near the fence. He waved to neighbors who passed and said hello with the same warm tone he always used. A new notice appeared at the mail kiosk with careful words about safety near beloved trails. It still did not give facts. It did not say that the land behind the kiosk was a patchwork of private parcels. It did not say who owned the gate by the creek. It just said the board was responding to concerns. People read the notice and then looked around as if the notice might point at someone. The paper fluttered in the breeze. A child tugged at a parent's sleeve and asked, "What does this mean?" The parent said, "It means the board is trying." Then they walked away with the same questions they had before. 2 more envelopes arrived for Darius that week. The first said he was being fined again for unsafe activity, with no date listed. The second said the board would consider new standards that might restrict certain activities near common paths. He read each word slowly. Then he placed both letters into his HOA folder with a note. No dates, no specific rules cited. Ask again. He wrote a polite email back to the board, attached the county map, and attached the short email from Ranger Kim that confirmed he was within the law. He asked for a copy of every complaint and any evidence behind the fines. The reply was brief and formal. "We have received your message. The board will review." He could not control the reply, but he could control his next steps. So he made tea, opened his laptop, and went to the county's public map website. He had used it before to understand his own parcel. Now he zoomed out to see the neighborhood and the creek. Each property showed as a shape with lines. The common green areas were shaded in light green. Private homes were in gray. Then he saw something that made him lean closer. The favorite path everyone called the trail was not inside the light green, common area. The first 60 steps beyond the mail kiosk crossed a thin rectangle of private land that did not belong to the HOA. Past that, the path bent across another private parcel. People had been walking there for years out of habit, not because there was a public right to do it. He clicked on the thin rectangle that held the gate and the first steps of the path. The owner's name on the screen was a person he knew by sight, Ms. Ruth from the far corner, who people called Aunt Ruth because she treated everyone like family. She was kind, older, and always wore a neat cardigan. He had once helped her fix a loose board on her fence. He remembered the thank you note she had sent him, written in neat cursive with a curved R for Ruth. He sat back in his chair and thought. If the land at the start of the path was private, then the board could not promise a public trail. They could only hope the owners would keep allowing it. He marked the parcel on a printout and placed it under a sticky note. Ask kindly. Learn more. He did the same for the second private parcel. Then he closed his laptop and stood by the window. Outside, he saw two teenagers ride their bikes to the kiosk and stop near the notice. They read it, shrugged, and then rolled toward the creek, only to turn around when they reached the gate. They looked confused. He felt a gentle tug in his heart. Clear rules help everyone, he thought. Mixed messages help no one. That evening, Omar knocked on his door with a soft smile. Walk? He asked. They walked along the sidewalk that curved past small front gardens. They talked about ordinary things first. A new cat seen near the alley, a neighbor's broken porch light, the chili cook-off set for next month. Then Omar's voice turned careful. Some folks are uneasy, he said. They don't know what is fact and what is rumor. Darius nodded. I know, he said. That's why I asked the board to let the county ranger give a simple briefing. Facts help. Omar agreed. He told Darius he had spoken to a few people who just wanted to feel heard. Would you talk with them on my porch? Omar asked. No speeches, just a small circle. Darius said yes. They met 2 days later. Omar set out water and a plate of dates. 4 neighbors came and sat in a semicircle on simple chairs. Darius brought his map and the email from the county. He did not try to persuade. He simply showed the lines, the colors, and the paragraph from Ranger Kim. He explained his routine and safety steps. I'm not trying to push anyone, he said. I'm trying to follow the rules and be a good neighbor. One person said they had felt nervous because they did not understand where anything was. Another said they had believed the path was a public trail. I thought the HOA owned it, she said, surprised by the printout. So did I, said another. A long, quiet breath passed through the small group as they took in the new information. Thank you for showing us, Omar said. Light is better than fog. The next HOA meeting came, and the room felt full before people even sat down. The board had added a topic about stricter standards near trails. Darius arrived with a simple idea in mind. When it was time for comments, he stood and spoke with the same clear tone he had practiced. It seems many neighbors don't have the facts, he said. We can fix that. I suggest 3 steps. First, accept a short, neutral briefing from the county ranger. Second, put up clear signs on common land that explain what is and is not part of the HOA. Third, let's make a shared calendar online so neighbors can see if I plan to be on my land at certain times. He paused. I believe in safety and kindness. I want everyone to feel calm. For a moment, the room felt quiet and easy. Then the board president thanked him and spoke in words that sounded nice, but did not say yes or no. A board member added, Our community must protect its image. Another said, Some activities don't fit our lifestyle. The words made a soft, dull sound in the room. They did not match the clear lines on the map. They did not answer the simple offer of a county briefing. They sounded like a curtain pulled across a window. Omar raised his hand and asked if the board could at least let the ranger speak at the next meeting. It would help to learn from someone who knows the rules, he said. The board said, We will review. In the weeks that followed, small conversations shaped the air. On morning walks, Darius met neighbors who asked thoughtful questions. He kept his answers short and factual. Yes, I stay on my land, he would say, pointing to the map. Yes, I follow the law, he would add, showing the paragraph from the county. Yes, I wear bright safety gear and avoid busy times. He saw jaws relax. He saw shoulders drop. Facts gave people ground to stand on. But online, a few vague posts still fed worry. "Something not right near our trail," one wrote. Another replied, "Board will handle it." The comments did not bring light. They brought more fog. One afternoon, as he returned from the market, he saw Aunt Ruth watering her small patch of flowers by her porch. He waved and asked if he could carry her empty watering can inside. Her smile was warm. "You always have good manners," she said. "My nephew would say the same." They sat on the steps for a minute. She told him she was thinking of moving closer to her niece in another town. "I don't need so much to manage now," she said, her voice gentle. She mentioned a tiny strip of land by the creek that had been in her family for years. "I worry about it," she said. "People walk through it and sometimes leave cups. There's a gate, but it's old. I'm getting tired." She said it like a sigh she had carried in her chest. Darius listened more than he spoke. He did not rush. He did not try to solve anything. He nodded and said, "If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. I can help you look at options or find someone who can." She patted his hand. "You are kind," she said. "Sometimes kindness is just listening," he replied. He walked home slowly and wrote a note in his notebook. "Aunt Ruth thinks of moving. She is tired of managing the strip by the creek." That night, he spread the printed parcel maps across his table and added small, sticky notes for each idea he had. One note said, "Education, county briefing, signs, shared calendar." Another said, "Respect. Ask landowners how they feel." A third said, "Safety, time windows, quiet zones." He also wrote a note to remind himself of something important. No quick moves. Slow is steady. Steady is kind. He wanted every step to come from care, not from anger. He wanted the story of this neighborhood to become a story of listening and clear lines, not a story of misunderstanding. A week later, a new draft rule showed up in everyone's inbox. It was the stricter standard the board had mentioned. The draft tried to extend HOA power to activities on adjacent or nearby land, even if it was not common area. It used vague words about community peace and image. It did not mention county law. It did not link to any map. It did not admit that parts of the beloved path were private. The draft made Darius feel the same quiet sadness he had felt before. He did not feel mad, just tired. He wrote a calm reply with simple points. "This draft reaches beyond HOA property," he wrote. "It conflicts with county rules. It would be kinder and wiser to host the county ranger, add signs that show true boundaries, and design a plan that matches the law." He pressed send and took a long walk along his fence line to clear his head. As he walked, the morning sun came soft through thin clouds when Darius walked across the street with a small box of tea. He had called Aunt Ruth the day before and asked if he could stop by to help with her porch steps. She had said yes and added, "Bring that nice tea you like." Her voice sounded warm but a little tired. He noticed it at once. On her porch, a small ceramic bird sat crooked on the railing. He fixed it gently and knocked. She opened the door in a neat cardigan, her hair pinned back just so, like always. "You have good timing," she said, smiling. "The kettle just clicked." They sat at her round kitchen table, which was covered with a clean cloth patterned with tiny flowers. A window looked toward the creek, and you could see the old gate from there, a narrow frame leaning a bit to the left, paint faded to the color of winter grass. She poured tea the careful way she did everything. "My niece says I should be closer to her," she began. "I am not as quick as I used to be. It is no shame. It is simple truth." She looked at the window, then at her hands. "That little strip by the creek keeps me up at night," she said. "People pass through. Sometimes they leave cups or wrappers. I don't like to fuss, but I worry. If someone trips on a root, who will answer for it? I am just one person." Darius listened. He did not jump in with ideas. He let her finish each thought. I understand, he said softly. When I first moved in, I did a lot of reading about small parcels and what the county expects. It can be a lot. I can help you look at options. If you want, I know a good title company, and I can call the county to ask about any simple steps. She nodded, a little relieved just to have the path forward named. Would you please? She asked. I don't want a big fuss. I want a clear, fair end. The talk turned to family stories and memories about the creek. She told him the strip had been part of her father's land long ago, left out of a sale because the surveyor could not reach the far stake through the thick brambles. It was almost a mistake it stayed with us, she said. But it did. Now it felt like a backpack she no longer needed to carry. Darius asked a few careful questions. Did she want to sell it? Would she like to sell to the HOA, to him, or to someone else? Did she have a price in mind? She sighed. I don't know what is fair. I only know I would like simple peace. Darius took out a small notepad. He drew a little rectangle and wrote gate parcel on it. Let me do some homework, he said. I will check the recent sales for land like this. I will talk to the title company. I will bring you numbers and choices. You can take your time. She placed her hand on the table. You are very kind, she said. Kindness is just listening and following through, he replied. They finished their tea while the light in the window shifted in a soft way that made the kitchen feel like a safe place. Over the next few days, Darius called the title company he trusted and asked for a simple search. He checked county records to confirm the boundary lines. He looked up small parcel sales in the past year, even though there were not many. He wrote notes in plain language so they would be easy to explain to Aunt Ruth. Then he returned to her kitchen with a folder. He showed her the search results, the map, and a fair price range. He explained closing costs and how to keep it simple. If you want to sell, I can make you an offer in the middle of this range, he said. I'll pay the closing fees. We can keep it quiet and respectful. Aunt Ruth read the short letter he had prepared, which described the offer in large, clear type. She took her time. Then she nodded. I like how you do things step by step, she said. I accept. Her eyes looked both relieved and a little sad, the way eyes look when a long chapter is ending. They agreed on a closing date a few weeks out to give the title company time to do its careful work. Darius called his bank to prepare the funds. He emailed the deed description to the title office with a thank you note. Everything moved in quiet, clean lines. During those weeks, the neighborhood kept its usual rhythm on the surface, but small currents moved under it. The HOA sent another draft of standards with the same vague words as before. A neighbor posted a picture of the creek on the community page with a caption about our trail, and a few people added heart emojis without knowing that the first steps beyond the gate were not theirs to promise. Omar stopped by with a bag of oranges and a calm voice. People still don't know the map, he said. They will, in time. Darius smiled in thanks and kept his focus on the work. At hand, closing day came soft and bright. The title office smelled faintly of paper and lavender cleaner. Darius signed with steady hand. Aunt Ruth signed with a small smile. The notary slid the pages into neat stacks, stamped the last one with a firm click, and said, Congratulations. It did not feel like a big victory. It felt like a right-sized solution to a problem that had nagged at the edges of many weekends. Darius walked Aunt Ruth to the door and carried her folder to the car. Thank you, she said. You have given me one less thing to worry about. He answered, You've given me a chance to care for it. I will do that. 2 days later, the deed recorded. Darius stood by the old gate with a small toolkit. He sanded the rough spots and brushed on a quiet, neutral coat of paint, the kind that blends with trees and does not shout. He tightened the hinges and made sure the latch worked smoothly. Then he hung a modest sign that read, Private property, no trespassing. The letters were clear and simple, without sharp edges. He stood back and looked at the creek, the leaning trees, and the narrow path that began on his newfound land. The sign was not about closing a heart. It was about setting a boundary the right way. Saturday arrived, and with it, the weekend walkers. A father and daughter came first, their steps light and hopeful. They stopped at the gate, read the sign, and looked around. The father explained in a soft voice that sometimes paths cross land that is not public. The daughter nodded in that thoughtful way children do when they learn something true. A group of friends arrived next, then a couple with a stroller. Each time, people paused, read, and spoke in low tones. Some turned back with puzzled faces. A few looked toward the street, as if expecting someone to appear and wave them through. Darius was in his yard, not hiding, not watching like a guard, just present, tending to a small bed of herbs, available if anyone wanted to ask a question. By afternoon, the news had moved through the neighborhood without any official announcement. A short message appeared on the community page. Gate now closed at Creek. Anyone know why? Another said, I heard it is private and always was. Someone else wrote, the board will solve this. The words traveled like dry leaves, light and a little noisy, but without roots. In the early evening, an email arrived from the HOA. The subject line read, Community Access and Harmony. The body asked that the gate be reopened for the good of all, and it suggested that closing it was a hostile act toward neighbors. Darius read the email twice and then took a breath that reached his toes. He sat at his table and drafted a reply that was short and steady. He attached a copy of the recorded deed. He attached a one-page note in simple language that listed his reasons: safety, liability, and the right to quiet use of private land. He wrote that he would keep the gate closed and would not accept harassment. He was not mad. He was firm. He ended with a respectful offer. If the HOA wishes to create a new path on public or HOA property, I am happy to share maps and ideas with the county. I support a safe legal trail for the neighborhood. He sent the email and then called Omar to let him know. It was going to happen like this, Omar said, calm as always. Your note is fair. People will need time. Darius thanked him and took a walk along his own fence line. The evening light made silver edges on leaves. He felt both the weight of the day and a lightness, too, like setting down a heavy bag after a long carry. The line between his land and the rest of the world was now clear and honest. That clarity was not cold. It was caring. The next day, a local reporter sent a polite message asking for a comment. Darius did not want to feed noise. He also did not want the story told without facts. He wrote a short statement and kept it free of sharp corners. I follow the law and care about safety. The strip at the creek is private. It has been used informally for years. It is now closed to reduce risk and confusion. I support the HOA and county working together on a proper public path elsewhere. Clear rules help everyone. He pressed send and put his phone away. If a story was printed, he hoped it would sound like this: steady, simple, and focused on fairness. Over the week, a few neighbors knocked on his door, some curious, some unsure, one or two a little upset but polite. Darius invited each to his porch, offered water, and showed the map and deed. He did not argue. He explained that Aunt Ruth had wanted peace, and now she had it. He explained that he wanted peace, and this was how he could hold it. After each talk, he saw understanding grow like a small light in the other person's eyes. It did not always become full agreement, but it became respect, and that mattered more. He also wrote a small Q&A sheet in plain words and left a stack of copies in a clear box near his mailbox. It answered simple questions. Who owns the strip at the creek? Why is the gate closed? Can there be a public trail? How? The last answer said, yes, if the HOA and county design one on land that is truly theirs. I support that. Below the answers, he printed a small map that showed HO. Conference Room B was cool and bright, with a glass wall that looked onto a quiet hallway. A small projector sat on the table, waiting. Nia arrived 5 minutes early with her tote, her printed report, and the calm she had carried all day. She plugged in the projector with steady hands and tested the slides. The first image filled the wall, a simple map of the ballroom with soft arrows showing where people moved fastest. She placed 3 sticky notes on the table in a neat row. Quick win, low cost, needs approval, and took a seat at the side, not the head. The facilities manager came in first, friendly and focused. Thanks for doing this, he said. The operations lead followed, carrying a notebook. The communications director entered next with the board liaison, who gave Nia a warm nod as if they had already met. 2 more chairs filled. Then the door opened, and the CEO stepped in with his assistant. He looked a little less rushed than he had that morning. He took the chair opposite the screen and placed his phone face down. For a quiet second, everyone breathed in the same air. The board liaison smiled. Let's begin. Nia stood and clicked to the first slide. Thank you for your time, she said. I'll be brief and clear. These are observations from daily work in the ballroom and nearby spaces and simple changes that reduce risk. Most items cost little and can be done fast. She pointed to the map. People move quickly along these aisles, especially near the south doors and the water tables. These circles are the highest slip points. The main causes are wet tiles from outside air, condensation on glass, and trays set too close to edges when we are tight on time. She clicked to the photos. Figure 1. A water ring forms in under 3 minutes on room temperature glass when the room is cool. We can reduce this by cooling glassware slightly more and using a thin coaster at the busiest tables. Figure 2. This is the south door at 6:30 a.m. on a rainy day. A mat here prevents a slick line across the first tiles. Figure 3. A better place for trays is 2 napkins from any edge. It keeps hands and arms inside the safe zone even when aisles are narrow. Her words were simple. Her tone was kind. She moved like a person who trusts the work. Questions came, and they were good. The operations lead asked, "How many mats?" 2, Nia said. 1 for each door that pulls in air strongest. The facilities manager asked, "Sign placement?" "At entry points," Nia answered. "So the warning arrives before the footfall." The communications director asked, "How do we help guests who want to set glasses near edges?" "We can place small center marks on tables," Nia said, showing a photo of a faint dot that helped people aim without being told. The board liaison listened with a careful face and wrote notes with quick, neat strokes. The CEO raised his hand slightly, then lowered it, then spoke. "This is clear," he said. "Thank you." He looked at the photo of the door again. "How fast can we act?" The operations lead replied, "Mats can be delivered tomorrow morning. Signs we can print today. Center marks by end of day if we align with the event team." The facilities manager added, "We have budget for all of it." The board liaison nodded once. "Let's set a simple plan," she said. 3 quick wins this week, then a review next week. Also a channel where anyone can send a safety note that gets read. Nia clicked to a final slide with 4 lines she had drafted in case the door truly opened. Possible actions by Friday, the slide read. 1. Place non-slip mats at south and side doors. 2. Print and place caution signs at entry. Points during service. 3. Add center marks on high-traffic tables. 4. Add a simple hotline number and email for safety notes, posted in staff areas and near service stations. She paused. "I can help write the hotline message so it is short and friendly," she said, "and I can train managers on what to look for when they walk the floor." There was a quiet in the room that did not feel tense. It felt like people thinking the same thought. We can do this. The communications director turned to the CEO. We should also address this morning, he said, his voice even and respectful. A staff forum, today or tomorrow, to acknowledge the moment and to share these changes with gratitude to Nia by name. The board liaison added, Names matter, work matters. Let's make both visible. The CEO looked at Nia. I agree, he said. If you are willing, I would like to say something now and say more later where everyone can hear. He stood, not to make a show, but to make his words carry weight. Ms. Daniels, he said, using her last name with care, I spoke to you in a way that did not respect you or your work. I am sorry. I also ignored a report that should have been read weeks ago. We will fix both things, the words and the systems. Thank you for your skill and your patience. He did not rush. He did not pad the apology. He let it stand the way an honest sentence stands, straight and simple. Nia listened with the same steady face she had all day. Thank you, she said. Let's make the room safer. The meeting turned to tasks. The operations lead took mats. Facilities took signs. The communications director took the hotline and a short message to staff. The board liaison took the follow-up review and a note to the board. The assistant built a list. Center marks by end of day, he said, tapping the screen. Mats by morning. Hotline live at 5 p.m. Daily check at 10 a.m. for a week to confirm. Placement. The plan was not grand. It was solid. People left with jobs in their hands and a time to gather again. The CEO stayed a moment longer. When the room had mostly cleared, he turned to Nia. May I ask one more thing? He said. Would you lead a short training next week for managers? 30 minutes. Show them what you showed us, where to look, how to listen, how to set things right before they go wrong. She thought of Ms. Alvarez's note. She thought of Joy and Ramon and Lillian and Mr. Harlan at the desk. She thought of the chain of care that held up days like this. Yes, she said. I can do that. I'll make it simple and useful. He smiled a little. Simple and useful is perfect. They set the date and time, Wednesday at 9 a.m., before service. The communications director offered a room and a projector. The board liaison promised to attend and to invite a few leaders who could help the ideas travel. Bring your photos and your map, she said. People learn best from what they can see. Nia nodded. I'll also bring the small tricks, she added. 2 cloths, the 2-napkin line, where to place cones. Managers like clear steps they can teach forward. The board liaison's smile widened. Exactly, she said. Teach forward. At 4 o'clock, an all-staff forum gathered in a large meeting room behind the lobby. Housekeeping, banquet staff, front desk, security, and a few managers filled the seats. The energy was curious but warm. The CEO stood at the front with the event planner, the communications director, and the facilities manager. Nia sat in the front row by the aisle. She did not want a spotlight. She wanted the message to be bigger than one person and close to the ground where work happens. The CEO spoke plainly. This morning I used careless words toward a member of our team, he said. I am sorry to Nia, and I am sorry to everyone who heard it or heard about it. Words shape rooms. We will shape this room with respect. He gestured to the facilities manager who shared the quick actions. Mats by the doors tomorrow morning, signs placed at entry points during service, center marks added to high-traffic tables by end of day. The operations lead shared the hotline, number and email, printed on a simple card taped to the wall and saved as a contact on staff phones. Then the CEO said the part that made people sit a little taller. These ideas come from Nia's safety report, he said, which should have been acted on weeks ago. It is clear, kind, and practical. Thank you, Nia, for caring enough to put your knowledge in writing. He turned to her where she sat. If you are comfortable, would you stand so we can thank you? She stood. Not slowly and not quickly, and the room clapped in a way that was not loud, but deep. Joy clapped with bright eyes. Ramon clapped with a proud grin. Lillian nodded, her hands folded, her face saying, "Yes, this is right." The forum ended with a short message on respect. The communications director said, "Here is a simple habit we will use every day. Say the name, respect the work." He wrote the line on a board. When you ask for help, say the person's name if you know it. When you speak about a job, remember it is a skill. We will treat each other as partners in a shared promise to guests and to each other. It was not a slogan for a wall. It was a practice for daily life. People took a photo of the board and saved it. Afterward, small groups formed. People talked in low voices full of relief and purpose. The facilities manager and operations lead checked the delivery times for mats. The event planner asked Nia for her training outline. Security spoke about door traffic at certain hours. The front desk suggested adding the hotline number to the daily brief so night shift could use it too. A server asked Nia about the 2-napkin line and smiled when she explained it with 2 real napkins and the edge of a nearby table. The board liaison caught up with Nia near the door. "You carry this with a lot of grace," she said. "Thank you." Nia smiled. "It is a team," she said. "I have learned from many people. I just wrote it down." The liaison nodded. "That is leadership," she replied. Seeing, learning, writing, and helping others see. She glanced toward the CEO who was speaking with a small circle of staff. "He is listening now," she said. "Let's keep the door open." Nia agreed. Doors that open must be at the... Morning came with a soft gray sky and the clean smell of rain. Nia reached the hotel early, as she always did. The lobby was quiet, and the floor lights made small golden paths on the tile. At the service station, 2 long boxes leaned against the wall with a delivery slip on top. She signed her name, cut the tape, and unrolled the first non-slip mat. It had a firm, friendly weight, like a promise you could touch. She placed it by the south door, pressed the edges flat, and smiled. When the mat gripped the tile, a guest would step there soon and feel safe without even knowing why. Joy came in behind her, eyes bright. "They're here," she said, almost clapping. "Let's place the second." They walked together to the side door, where a draft sometimes tugged at the floor. The second mat fit like it had been waiting for this day. Nia stepped on it and felt the sure hold under her shoes. "Good," she said simply. Joy nodded, serious for a moment. "Feels different already." By 7:30, signs were printed and ready. The facilities manager rolled in with a cart of neat plastic frames. "Entry points, just like you said," he told Nia, offering a kind grin. They placed the signs where they would help before anyone reached a risk spot, at the edge of a corridor that turned from carpet to tile, by the water table, near the doors. Small acts, smartly done, are like lights on a path. People move better when they can see. On the ballroom tables, tiny center dots marked the safe place for glasses. They were almost invisible to the eye, but somehow caught your attention. A server set down a carafe and chuckled. "This dot is like a friendly whisper," she said. "It says, 'Right here, please.'" She pointed to the dot, then to her own chest. "Helps me too." Ramon tried the 2-napkin line with a tray and showed it to a new hire. "Left, right, center," he said, repeating Nia's simple rhythm. The pattern felt like a dance step. It made work smooth. At 9 o'clock, managers filed into a small training room with coffee cups and curious faces. A sign on the door read, "Walk the floor, seeing and fixing risks," led by N. Daniels. The communications director had added a small line underneath. "Safety is kindness made visible." Ms. Alvarez's words looked right there, like they had always belonged. Nia stood at the front with her photos and her map. She felt steady. She did not plan to impress. She planned to help. "Thank you for being here," she began. "We will keep this simple and useful. We'll learn 3 things: where to look, what to listen for, and what to do first. She showed the map with the soft arrows for foot traffic. She rolled a short video of a door opening and the faint pull of air across tiles. She placed a cone not in the center of a wet patch, but at the place where feet would first meet risk. Then she invited everyone to stand and walk the room with her. They moved together like a team on a gentle mission. At each corner, she asked a question. What do you see? What do you hear? Where will feet go? People answered in short, useful sentences. I hear the pull, one manager said by the side door, smiling like a kid who had learned a magic trick. I see the dot, another said at a table, tapping it with a fingertip. They practiced the 2-napkin line and laughed when someone set a tray too close to the edge and then fixed it quickly, proud of the small correction. At the end, Nia gave them a 1-page guide. It fit on a phone screen and used plain words. Eyes down, up, ahead. Listen for drafts. Place mats at doors, signs at entry. Keep trays 2 napkins from edges. Wipe wet, then dry. Center marks help guests help us. Send near-miss notes to the hotline. She held up her own phone and saved the hotline number with a star. If you see something, say it, she said. We will respond the same day. We'll report back to you next week on what changed. The board liaison sat in the back, taking notes and watching faces. When the training ended, she spoke to the group. Thank you, she said. This is how culture changes, one clear habit at a time. Please carry these habits back to your teams. She turned to Nia. You made this easy to learn, she added, and the room nodded in agreement. Joy whispered to Ramon, She's our coach now. And he whispered back, She always was. Now everyone knows. By mid-morning, the hotline dinged with its first message. Draft stronger at north door today due to outside fans. Need temporary mat? The facilities manager replied within 10 minutes. On it, placing a spare mat now. A second message followed. Water carafe sweating faster near window tables. Can we cool the glass more? The operations lead wrote back, Yes, adjusting cooler by 2 degrees. Each small fix landed like a puzzle piece, and the picture grew clearer. At noon, a guest slipped slightly near the lobby, but this time, the mat caught his foot and held him steady. He looked down and smiled at the black rectangle on the floor. Good mat, he said to no one in particular, and then, to Joy as she passed, good work. She thanked him and texted the hotline. Incident avoided thanks to Matt, north door. The communications director read the message and quietly added a line to a note he was writing for the board. Measurable near misses reduced in first 4 hours. In the afternoon, the CEO walked the floor with the facilities manager and the event planner. He didn't make a show of it. He simply walked and watched. He paused at a door and listened. He stepped on a mat and felt the difference. He asked the planner how the dots on the tables were working. Better glass placement, fewer rings, she said. Also fewer quick grabs by guests at the edges. It looks cleaner and feels calmer. He nodded and looked at the hotline poster on the staff board. This is a good idea, he said, and made a mental note to expand it to other areas. At 3 o'clock, the safety review team met again for 15 minutes. They liked what they saw. 4 hotlines messages had been answered the same day. Mats were in place. Signs were set exactly where they helped most. Center dots worked. A tiny memo from accounting even noted that fewer tablecloths were being sent to laundry. Smita would smile when she heard that. The board liaison closed the quick check with a simple line. Let's keep going. In the days that followed, the patterns held. The hotline became a quiet river of useful notes. Wet footprints near coat check, placed sign. Tray, table wobbly, tightened screw. New hire needs 2-cloth routine. Training set for tomorrow. Managers walked the floor with new eyes. The words, say the name, respect the work. appeared on small cards by service stations and in the daily brief email. People didn't just say the words, they used them. "Thank you, Joy," a manager would say. "Thank you, Ramon." Names are bridges. They bring people closer. 1 week later, the review meeting included a small chart on a single page. It showed near misses lower by half compared to the previous week's average. It showed fewer wet rings on tables, measured by supplies used to clean them. It showed 2 small costs, mats and signs, and 4 small savings, fewer tablecloths. To laundry, fewer broken glasses, less time spent resetting, fewer guest complaints. The picture was simple. Care pays. The CEO sent an internal note that afternoon. It was short and clear. Team, we made quick changes this week thanks to observations from Nia Daniels in housekeeping and support from facilities, operations, and events. You will notice mats at doors, better sign placement, and small center marks that guide glassware. These are simple steps with real impact. Thank you to everyone who sent notes to the safety hotline and acted on them the same day. We will keep learning. Please continue to share what you see. As a reminder for all of us, say the name, respect the work. Evan. People read the note on their phones during breaks and felt a small lift in their chests. It feels good when a company speaks in a tone that matches everyday truths. 2 weeks. Later, a new sign appeared in the staff hallway near the lockers. Frontline Scholarship, apply now. It offered paid classes for any employee who wanted to learn a skill connected to the work: safety, food handling, guest care, equipment maintenance. There were 5 slots to start, funded from a small pool set aside by the board. The first line, under purpose, said, "We invest in the people who make our promises possible." Joy nudged Nia. "You started this," she whispered. Nia shook her head gently. "We started this," she corrected. On a quiet morning, Ms. Alvarez visited the hotel to see the changes. Nia walked her through the ballroom. "You can feel it?" Ms. Alvarez said, looking at a mat, then a dot on a table, then a cone placed just so. "It's like walking through a sentence that makes sense." They sat in the back row for a minute and watched the staff move. Ms. Alvarez smiled. "When you pass your certification, you'll be ready for the next step," she said. Nia's jam jar at home was heavier now. A small stipend from the company had joined her saved bills and coins. Her exam date sat on her calendar like a friendly star. On the last Friday of the month, the hotel tried something new. Walk the Floor Day. It was simple. 2 executives, 2 managers, and 2 frontline staff paired up and did a 10-minute walk together. They looked, listened, and fixed one thing on the spot. The CEO joined the first group. He carried a small roll of tape and a spare sign in his hand, not as a symbol, but because they might need them. He asked Joy about her favorite small trick. She showed him the 2-cloth routine and grinned when he got it right on the second try. People laughed softly, not at him, but with him. Work felt human. Not every day was perfect. Once a mat curled at the corner and needed to be flattened. Once a sign went missing and had to be found. Once a dot on a TA